All right, today we're diving into a story that is just fascinating. It sits right at the crossroads of ancient legend and modern science. We're talking about the 3,000-year flower. Sightings of this thing have popped up all over the world, and it's sparked a pretty wild debate. Is this some kind of prophecy coming true, or is it something else entirely? Let's get into it. And that really brings us to the core, almost unbelievable question at the heart of this whole thing. What on earth could possibly bloom only once every 3 millennia? I mean, think about that. So our story, it doesn't start in some ancient, dusty temple. Nope. It starts on a totally modern balcony in Taipei, back in 2007. And it all begins with this unexpected and incredibly fragrant late-night discovery. The man who found it was a painter, Chen Kuo-tung. He was working late one night, and suddenly this powerful, completely unidentifiable scent fills his entire home. He said it was like sandalwood and incense, and it was so strong he just had to figure out where it was coming from. And get this, he found the source at 3:30 in the morning. This wasn't just some casual afternoon gardening find. The timing just makes the whole thing feel even more mysterious, doesn't it? So what did he find? Well, it was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It was this tiny cluster of 14 blooms, and each one was barely a millimeter wide. I mean, teeny tiny. They were held up by these stems that were as thin as golden silk. These perfect, bell-shaped flowers were this pale white color, and they seemed to have this weird rhythm. They'd only open in the middle of the night and would close up again as soon as the sun came up. Now, a discovery this strange wasn't going to stay a simple curiosity for long. It actually brought a very old story roaring back to life, an ancient prophecy about a secret bloom that a lot of people believed was now, finally, being fulfilled. At the very heart of this legend is the Udumbara flower. In Buddhist scriptures, this isn't just any plant. It's a sacred, heavenly flower. And when it appears, it's supposed to be this incredibly important spiritual sign from the heavens. A really big deal. And here is the absolute kicker, the time scale. According to the legend, the flower only blooms to signal the arrival of a holy figure, the king of the golden wheel, who comes down to the human world. And after that, a full 3,000 years are supposed to pass before it ever blooms again. And look, this isn't just some old wives' tale being passed down. It's written right there in ancient texts. The Fahua Wenjo, a major Buddhist scripture, says it plainly. So that gives this legend some serious historical and cultural weight. Okay, so we've got the discovery and we've got the legend. You know what comes next, right? The scientific community had, well, they had some questions. And that kicked off this central debate. Is this a miracle, some kind of weird fungus, or just the eggs of an insect? Which leads us to the big question we have to ask. Are all these sightings, and by the way, they've happened in multiple countries on everything from plants to steel pipes, are they really the fulfillment of a prophecy, or is there a much more conventional, down-to-earth explanation? So let's put these two ideas head to head. In one corner, you have the Udumbara flower, a sacred sign, smells amazing, and can apparently grow anywhere. In the other corner, you have scientific skepticism, which says, hey, it could be lacewing eggs, or maybe it's a fungus. But there are some major problems with those theories. Lacewing eggs don't have a scent, and they're almost always laid on plants, not on steel or glass where these things have been found. And this is where the mystery just gets deeper. The experts couldn't agree on anything. One university lab looked at a sample and said, okay, we can confirm it is not an insect egg. But they said it had a structure that was similar to a fungus. Then another expert from a different top university examined Chen's original flowers and stated with certainty that they were definitively not a fungus. So what is it? This total professional deadlock just leaves us with this massive, unanswered question. It's one of those rare moments where the experts seem to fall silent, either because they can't or maybe because they're unwilling to give a straight answer. And listen to this. This really says it all. A university plant professor, when talking to Chen, was incredibly honest about why he was hesitant. He said this: it just reveals this huge tension between maintaining a scientific reputation and exploring something that's tied so closely to spiritual belief. Now, from a totally different angle, a Taoist master offered this bit of humility. He basically said, look, the legend says 3,000 years. I'm only 72. It's a frank admission that some things, just by their nature, exist way beyond a single human lifetime.
No one alive has a frame of reference for this.
But here's the part that really gets me. Despite all the disagreement, all the hesitation, and the completely different worldviews, both the scientist and the spiritual leader agreed on one thing. They both described what they saw as magical, incredible, and something they had never, ever seen before in their lives. So where does that leave us? Is it a sacred sign, a harbinger of a new era? Or is it just a breathtakingly rare natural wonder that science just hasn't gotten around to classifying yet? Maybe the answer isn't really what's important here. Maybe the whole point is the mystery. Maybe its purpose is just to make us all look a little closer, ask some bigger questions, and just marvel at a world that can still leave us completely speechless. What do you think?